Yeah, I mean, we're just talking to the private equity fund that owns one of the teams, and this is their number one pick player. And it just so happened while we were talking to them, they got it was announced that she had an ACL injury and she's out. And they started talking about how this is going to impact, the branding, marketing.
Hi, welcome back, Content Sports friends and followers. We have an exciting guest today, Mr. Sanj Singh, joining us. How's it going, Sanj?
Doing well, Connor. Thanks for having me.
Forward to it. And we have a new kind of realm we're going into today, and that is sports medicine, sports recovery. And Sanj is the co-founder, CEO of Temple Ortho Biologics, and they are getting into the sports medicine industry, you could say, with quite the market cap the sports medicine industry has, and they're doing a lot of cool, innovative stuff within the sports industry, and a lot of really to try to help the athletes in general with their injuries and whatnot. And so, uh, Sanj, how about you kind of start off? I want to start off with the kind of reframing sports medicine as we think about injuries going forward. When we see our favorite player go down, like a Patrick Mahomes with a knee injury, we think to ourselves, that's a 2-year injury. He's going to be out for a while. What does that kind of what's the sports medicine industry look like as far as from your side of the fence?
This is an interesting subject matter because we're new to the sports asset class as an ecosystem, and we're bringing 13 years of R&D in the world of medicine, which when you enter the sports world, there's already a sports medicine
Yeah.
segment, which I'm not sure if your audience knows, but that market is, anywhere from 11 billion, and it's expected to grow to like 32 billion over the next 5 to 6 years. And when you think about it, every team has a medical team. They have physios, trainers, sports team physicians, right? If somebody gets injured on the field, they do a concussion protocol. And so it almost seems to me when we came into the industry, we're bringing in, research and development, patents, intellectual property that can be leveraged. And in our world, that is our currency, right? That is how we generate value, is in generating patents and ultimately products that help people in life. But when you think about sports and sports medicine and how teams, and we've had lots of conversations with teams on leagues and even investors, and it seems like they're looking at it as a cost center. Trainers, physios, surgeries. It's like a reaction function. Well, we'll fix the injury after it happens.
It happens.
And I mean, you're seeing some movement into the predictive analytics. Like I think the NFL is a good example with the digital athlete. I had a chance to sit down with Jennifer Langton, who is the former EVP of Health and Safety for the NFL. And they took on this idea, especially driven by concussions, but they now track everything, right? So, teamed up with AWS as the backroom storage. But if you think about what the NFL has done in tracking how every player and what happens on the playing field, think about all the technology that's gone in to make that happen. Some company like us has developed that to facilitate it and has been able to monetize that. So as much as it seems like a team expense and it's not a scalable industry, um, the the technology that's being developed for injury recovery performance is becoming more and more important. And I would argue that in the last 10 years, when sport has become, I think 76 Capital term, Wayne Kimmel, coined the term sport as an asset class. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Everybody is kind of, but flattery is imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So uh, now people are starting to think about injuries and especially the top athletes being present on the field, and then the ripple effect of that across viewership, media rights, branding, marketing, ticket revenue, and so forth. So, good example in women's sports is Caitlin Clark. When she was out, like ticket revenues dropped, ticket prices dropped, viewership dropped. And I think in women's sports, and especially the growth there, the women are actually more important to the growth of that industry. And the star athletes are critically important. And so I would say there's a lot more elasticity there. So I think it's changing, but I think it's a really good subject matter to talk about because of the impact across the commercial levers that big private equity is investing in, and also venture groups that are coming into it.
Well said. And you mentioned kind of the market cap, as you mentioned, is quite substantial there. And so coming into a space like this with you and your team, with 13 years of kind of this R&D and coming in, what are some of the kind of the entry points where you think that you will be able to make a difference as far as different sports, women's sports, kind of these emerging leagues or youth sports?
Yeah, look at. I think that the phrase we use is the will to compete, to move, is something that's universal, and it belongs to all of us, right? And so the idea here is that the moment an injury happens, it doesn't matter whether it's an elite athlete or it's the everyday person who just likes to go for a walk, for example, right? Being able to go for a walk if you're injured has now been taken away. So yes, it impacts almost from 8 to 80 years old. So we could have an impact essentially on anybody who has an active lifestyle, that has this will to compete, to move, and at the same time, with obesity and chronic disease, you're also an aging population. You're seeing joint replacements, and in joint replacements, whether it's hips or knees or what have you, one of the areas that we're attacking, Connor, is really the injury is not the problem itself. It's actually the scar tissue, and particularly excessive scar tissue, which causes pain. It causes stiffness. So of course, when you think about hip replacements or knee replacements and the rehab that goes into getting that full motion back in, the scar tissue is the villain. That prevents that, and it delays the recovery. When you go to athletes, whether it's a hamstring injury, ACLs, meniscus, shoulder injuries, elbow injuries, scarring is universal. And it's that scarring that limits motion, causes pain, and again, leads to long-term degeneration. So we know at the biological level, at the biology that we've been studying for so many years, the critical importance of this. So it doesn't matter which sport, how old. In fact, you look at stats now with especially young girls, like between 14 and 18, the level of the rate of orthopedic injuries is just skyrocketed. Now, you could say that is due to just the volume, right, of people participating, which is great. Girls being active, I think has long-term positive benefits. But at the same time, there's some biological factors that puts females at a 6 to 8 times higher risk of ACL injuries relative to the males. And you see this at one time, one season in the European League, 95 of the top players in women football in Europe were out of ACL injuries. And of course, you can think about the impact of that, right, in terms of the team, the playoff chances, viewership, revenue, everything. So, we have this one small part of where we're looking at developing a drug that's already worked in human trials for abdominal surgeries, and we're just extending it to sports medicine and in tissue, because I said scarring is universal. So the market cap is massive. I don't think we've touched it. Post-traumatic osteoarthritis, which is caused from injuries, affects 600 million people worldwide. I just thought I'd think about that for a bit.
It's a,
And with the aging population, that's not going to go away.
increase.
And more people are wanting to be active, move, and it's their identity. They want to be able to have a healthy lifespan, a better quality of life, and movement is medicine. So that's where we're focused and try to make a difference across all sports.
Great. Yeah, I had a few thoughts there. I'm gonna first question lead into a second one, but the first one
Sure.
was revolving around athlete injuries. You mentioned, I think it was before the call, that when you tear one of your ACLs, you have a 25% chance likelihood of tearing it again, or the other one. So the first questions revolve around those types of statistics with injuries. You mentioned just earlier we're seeing in women's sports increasing, but then also is that overuse? Is that more athletes playing sports? Where are we seeing kind of the differentiator, if any?
I think those are all driving factors. I don't think everybody knows for sure, but definitely more research is going on now. There's an ACL project over in Europe that's looking at what is the reason for all these ACL injuries in women playing football or soccer, right? But yeah, the rate of injury. So the reason the recurrence happens, and it could be a number of factors, but coming back too soon. Number one could be that. The other one is that the repair didn't actually happen properly, and so you're compensating. Look at it, athletes, whether they're weekend warriors or elite athletes, there's a competitive nature,
Yeah, they want to get back out there.
right? And just the will to do what you love at the highest level that you people will push themselves, and you see that, and it becomes part. It's almost like a dopamine effect that they need it. But the rate of injuries are increasingly high. There's one of the concerns that orthopedic surgeons have had, especially with pediatrics, which is under 18, is just the number of injuries. Now, part of that is specialization. And my grandkids play hockey up here, right? And they play hockey in the winter. Now, I know we're Canadians, so we play hockey a lot, but at the same time, they're playing in the winter, they're playing spring hockey, they play summer, fall. They don't have a break.
Or stop.
And I think that's also that specialization is impacting. And you see that more, like camps, and everybody's kids are going to be in the NHL or the PWHL or the WNBA or what have you. There's an aspiration for that. You look at also extreme sports. Now, if you watch the Olympics, right? See what happened to Mark McMorris, right? I mean, extreme sports, whether it's snowboarding or trick skiing, all these things, the rate of injuries is 3 times that of traditional. And majority of the sports, the lower extremities are the biggest injuries. So it's starting to be recognized, I think, Connor, because before sport became an asset class, it's like tape ice rehab,
Yeah.
right? Through
Yeah.
some cortisone shots, get back out there,
Yeah.
right?
Rub some dirt on it.
Athletes can be replaced, right? They were seen as commodities, right? I remember a tennis match back in the 70s where in between sets, this Italian player would pull out a cigarette and have a cigarette between sets. You're not going to see that today, right?
No.
You see the level of training. So here's an interesting. I was in London last October, and I had a chance to talk to Darren Cahill. He's a coach of Yannick Sinner, the tennis player, and Darren in his panel was talking about utilizing data to predict performance. And somebody asked him, he said, where do you see the evolution of data going next? And right away he said biological medical. And the reason, and I took him to, when he was offside there, off the panel, and I had a quick conversation with him. And I said to him, hey, when you ask Yannick how he's doing during practice, what's his usual answer? Yeah, I'm okay. But at the biological level, where let's just say the magic happens, the secret is he may not be. So certain markers may be, you know, in his blood elevated that could be a predictor, right? Barca FC, who's got an innovation hub, they're going into this field of biomedical research, using their players to see how well they can not only develop, ways to combat injuries, but they're also looking at developing intellectual property that can be monetized across all sports.
Yep. Okay.
So the teams and the leagues and the players are actually becoming part of the process, and the ability to develop intellectual property as a business opportunity beyond just managing the injury recovery and performance. It's interesting dynamics going on right now. And we're kind of in the thick of it, and it's kind of exciting, but at the same time, we're also educating the players in the field.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be right there, like you said, in the thick of it. So it's always know what's going on in the industry. And we talked about it a little bit. So we have kind of these. You mentioned the sport as an asset class. These teams, these leagues, these owners are starting to pay a little bit more attention to players getting injured and not just treating them as commodities. To this, where these owners are starting to realize, well, if my stadium's half full, I'm losing out on ticket sales. I'm losing out on sponsorships. Just because of this, these one or two players are injured now, I just lost out on X, Y, and Z dollars for that season.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking to the private equity fund that owns one of the teams, and this is their number one pick player. And it just so happened while we were talking to them, it was announced that she had an ACL injury and she's out. And they started talking about how this is going to impact the branding, marketing. So it's a real. I mean, it was the timing of that. I feel sorry for the player because they work so hard to get there, and just to have that. Now, look, at injuries happen. We're not here to say, there's a lot of good companies that are doing good work in predictive analytics to see how we can prevent it. Injuries are inevitable if you're active. But recovery doesn't have to be a gamble anymore. And there's enough evidence that we've gathered and others over many years of studying how the biology responds to injury, that there's actually ways to redirect or support the healing process using biology to ensure that the recovery is proper and better, so they can come back. One thing is we've registered a trademark, Connor, called "I'm Back."
Love it.
And yeah, so it took us only 2.5 years to get there, but
no red tape at all.
No, but in terms of coming up with the phrase.
Okay.
Because what we wanted to do is something that, as an athlete, I remember when I blew both my hamstrings at the same time. And it took I was playing football, right? 8 to 10 months where when I did that first burst and I didn't feel anything, internally I felt, yes, I'm back. Like, it's not something that you say out loud. It's just that internal feeling. And that's what we were trying to get to, is what is the most important thing for anyone who's active that's been injured, is that feeling, saying, I'm back.
I'm curious. Recently I've been. We've seen AI obviously make its way through the news and whatnot. What are your thoughts on kind of AI in the health space? You mentioned a lot of the NFL and the work they're doing, but do you see it still scaling to all these teams and leagues using AI, or do you see kind of a cool off? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's going to cool off. No, I think I'll take an approach that we're using, right? So everything we do is based on biology. Biology is very complex. So prior to this, in our field, we use a lot of bioinformatics. AI is just a tool that helps expedite and gets deeper into insights that we may not have uncovered. And so it's an efficiency tool for us, a deep dive tool. Now, the danger of AI, and I'm not saying it's a not type of doom thing, is that AI is only as good as the data that it's been fed and trained on. And majority of the data that's out there, like we have we come from the company was spun out from a women's health company, and where we just say, look, we need female biology to develop products for females. Right? Simple phrase, but that's what needs to be done. It hasn't been done. And so the AI systems that are being deployed now are utilizing data primarily from male athletes or male biology or male data that's out there because the foundational work in females hasn't been done. So this is why we're talking to different leagues and player associations that represent women, even talking to like companies like REL Investments who are investing in women's sports because they see it as a growth sport. And I said, I think the women are more important to the growth of that sport, particularly the let's say the star franchise players. So the collection of data, the biological data, the performance data, the physical data, everything has to be specific to the problem you're trying to solve. Then AI becomes a precision tool rather than a general tool. And I think that's the delineation that you have to be careful about because the AI is only a tool and it does what you tell it to until it starts to think for itself. Then that's going to be an issue. Some people have projected that, but iRobot, right? It's going to go to that phase. But that's where I'm not an AI expert. We use it, and we use it as an efficiency precision tool, but we're very careful about what it's analyzing.
Yep. Yeah. The
data.
The inputs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the inputs. But it's not going to go away. No, absolutely not. Yeah.
As you guys continue to scale and build out the company, as far as broad, I mean, you mentioned it's 11 billion to 33 billion kind of market space. So in the next 5 to 10 years, what are your thoughts on where you see kind of the sports medicine, kind of the ecosystem growing into, in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think companies like us, we knew that in orthopedics, which has been dominated by plastics, metals, and screws, right, and devices, right, just implants, right, all these kind of things, are going to have to go through a process where it's evidence-based. And ultimately our goal, Connor, is like recovery should not be a luxury. It should not just be reserved for people who can afford it at 60,000, 40,000 that some of these treatments are charged for, right? What we're trying to develop is evidence-based therapy that is FDA approved, that is shown to work, is safe, and is accessible and affordable to everyone. Because, like I said, the will to move, to compete, that belongs to all of us, not just the elite. And that's where we're focused in. But I think the world of biology, the more we understand about injuries and how we can influence recovery and performance, you're going to see more companies coming into the space. We seem to be one or two pioneers in the space. We haven't seen anything else that at least we're accustomed to or been aware of. And sometimes that's tough, right? Carving out new territory, but at the same time, there's been lots of other products. Like I know people get injections of hyaluronic acid in their knee.
Okay.
If you look at orthopedic literature, like in peer-reviewed publications, they'll say it doesn't work. But the docs still use it, and the patients go, yeah, it feels good.
Feels good, yeah.
Come back like a dentist every 6 months, and I'll give you a $600-700 injection.
Jeez.
But they make good money on it. But here's, if somebody actually looks into the science, there's a thing called half-life, like how long is it before the product, right? It has 3 days.
No kidding.
But the product's gone within 7 days. Okay, so it's not like it's gonna be there, and it's designed as this cushion, because it's kind of viscous, jelly like. But it's a 600-700 million dollar business a year,
Right.
right?
Unbelievable.
So world, ballot, it's been working, but we're trying to take it up. We're trying to flip the script and take it to another level, and evidence based, which also means insurance will reimburse it. None of the therapies that I've just shared with you is reimbursable. It's all out of pocket. But if you got FDA approval and you've gone through the proper clinical trials, and we're going to do it in ACL first, that's kind of the model procedure, you get possible reimbursement because you've done the clinical work to show that it works, it's safe, and it makes a difference. They call it a minimal clinical improvement difference, MCID. How did you make this person's life better? Did they move better? Did they feel better? And if that's the case, then you get reimbursed. I think that's what's going to help grow the industry, if people approach it that way.
And I was going to ask, is it kind of the ACL, the MCL? But you answered it there. With the ACL is kind of what you're focusing on.
Any injury, hamstrings to shoulder injuries to women. I'll give you some facts about orthopedics and sports medicine. 70% of joint replacements are done in women. Women have more issues with frozen shoulders, primarily due to hormones, menopause, and of course the ACL injuries are more common. Yeah, it impacts women disproportionately. Doesn't mean it doesn't impact men, but it's a huge market. The whole space of joint preservation, regenerative medicine, human performance optimization. These are the words that are coming into the space now, right? Yeah. And I'll add one thing for elite athletes. They have another, especially for tested athletes. So if anybody's listening here who's tested, there are certain compounds, even we just say protocols, like let's say vitamin loading in between competitions, is not allowed under WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, and there's a global DRO, which is banned substance requirements. So developing a product that also meets, for elite athletes, the WADA and the global DRO substance requirements is also important, and our compound does. It meets those, so they could use it. It's we'll have to get, let's just say, appropriate, but it seems to meet those requirements at the present. It's not on the list. Doesn't mean they don't put it on there afterwards, but we don't see that based on what their criteria is. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask, kind of as you guys continue to grow and expand, but sounds like that's all getting taken care of as far as the athletes. They don't want to get flagged for PEDs, under those guidelines. So that's obviously a huge aspect there. But then as far as your kind of journey being the CEO and one of the co-founders and going into kind of building a business, what have been some of the, as you came on board here, what was that, 2016, I think I saw? Is that when this kind of came to be, or was it before that?
No, so the parent company, Temple Therapeutics, the women's health company, was established 2016.
Okay.
This company, we launched it in 2024.
24.
Yeah. It was officially incorporated in August. And then we kind of went through the setup process for the rest of the year in 2024. And then, we incorporated in Belgium, Connor. And you can tell by my accent, I'm not Belgian. But the reason we set it up in Belgium is that they have, it's one of the sports tech hubs for technology hubs in Europe. One. And number two, they have a very can I just say, rich, generous R&D subsidy program.
Oh, I see.
So if we're developing, already 13 years of R&D, developing patents, all the manufacturing, we've saved a lot of money and spend that has to go into this company. Like, I would venture to say almost $45 million of
Wow.
investment and in kind from all our partners have gone in developing this technology to date, right? But we spun out the company. It's priced like a startup, but it's been de-risked because the science works. It's already in humans. It's published. We have full-scale manufacturing. This new company doesn't have to spend money on that.
I see.
And then you layer in a 70% R&D subsidy. So every dollar, so let's just say our budget is 2 million for the next 18 months, 2 years for R&D. We're getting back 1.4 from the Belgian government already.
Wow.
And we already qualified for it. There you have to pre-qualify. So we spent all of 2025. It takes that long. It's a very detailed process to qualify for it. And then we started raising capital. Now, even before we started raising capital, to your question about how difficult this is, one thing we needed to make sure is that if we develop this product or product line, that somebody would be there to acquire us. So we have the medtech companies, pharma companies that are in sports medicine, and they're looking for next generation biology. So we validated that with those companies. And then we went to, I said, who are the big gatekeepers? The sports medicine docs. So you needed to get them on board. Because you can imagine, if I went into the sporting world, and we have the chief of sports medicine at HSS, the number one hospital for orthopedic and sports medicine in the world out of New York. He's a co-investor, co-founder, because he likes the technology. He likes the technology because 13 years of work went into it.
Because it's working, yeah.
If we had come to him with just an idea, he goes, "Get the hell out of my office."
Yeah.
That's. And then you look at our team. Something when we talk to investors now, we say, look at this is not a startup. There's a lot of work has gone in, and when you look at the team, imagine if this team wasn't here. All the people that we've been able to attract is because of the work that went on ahead. They wouldn't be putting their name on this or being associated with it if it was just a concept, right? So putting that team together, and we benefited from all that years of work. It didn't happen overnight, right? And now we're going into the venture world, and particularly in sports, because we thought, okay, those who are investing in the sports ecosystem are going to recognize the importance of injuries, recovery, and performance. And we kind of ran into something different, which is a challenge. They like everything that we're doing, but it's their unfamiliarity with medicine.
I see. Because they're just in the sports.
Yeah, they're thinking more media rights, fantasy, their experience, or fan
Fan
engagement,
Yep.
like this type of thing. Yet the real value, if you think about the numbers, like I said, 600. Look at there's 300 million pickleball players, right? Alone. I mean that's and they all get injured. Believe me, I see them,
Yeah.
right? They want to keep playing.
Yeah.
So there's a massive opportunity there, and that's the hurdle that we've been trying to battle, and why I put that comment on one of your posts about where's the money going in sports. And this space, people are missing out because there isn't too many companies, like in pharma and biotech. You could have two people with a patent and some data be taken out for $500 million. Okay, a drug in our space, even before it even hits human trials, the average acquisition price range is anywhere from 56 million to 120 million. Even while we're playing with animals. Okay? Once it gets into human, it jumps to 400 to 700. And that's not even approved yet. When it gets to later stage trials, like the last trial that we have to run before approval, you're looking at 800 million to 1.7 to 2.2 billion, sorry. And when it gets approval, it's about 2.5 billion. Okay, so intellectual property, patents, data, that's our currency. And the total development cost, we think, for our drug from beginning to end, because of the subsidies and the work done previously 13 years, is around 20 to 22 million over the next 5 years. And then you look at the exit potential. So it's about 32 times, if you do an IRR, it's about 75% annualized return. And the other thing is you don't have to wait for the company exit. So we tell shareholders now, listen, we can exit at any time. If somebody comes to us and says, I like the data, I want to buy you now. Yeah, even though product's not on the market, they'll take it over.
The data, yeah.
Yeah, it's IP data.
Data puts it
Our IP runs until expires in 2044.
Oh wow. Okay. So yeah.
So if we get on the market, even the drug gets on the market at 2030, 2031, you have 14 years of monopoly.
You got that runway, yep.
And we also control the manufacturing. So we'll never give that up. So even if the patent runs out, it's going to be difficult for somebody else to manufacture this drug. Because there's some proprietary stuff to it. So you can see that the scarcity in our industry is determined by patent exclusivity and know-how. It's not easily imitated. It's very rare, and there's a lot of entry barriers for anybody to come in. Whereas, if you're in gaming or fanning, the entry barriers are a bit lower. It's all branding, marketing, how fast can you scale. Us, we kind of just sit back and let the data generate, and each time we accomplish a milestone, the value jumps are incredible.
Wow.
So
yeah, I knew that the market was big and the market cap for it, but as you've been rattling off some of these numbers, it's staggering.
Yeah, I think it shocks some people. I'll tell you one other figure that shocks people on injuries. There's and I would ask people to look this up. I'm giving a plug for Howden Insurance. I don't have any shares in Howden. I don't use Howden, so there's no. But Howden Insurance tracks injury rate costs for the top tier football teams in Europe. If you look at the report, it's if you translate it from euros, it's around 1.1 billion a year. And that's just European tier 1, the top leagues in European soccer. That's one league, and that's and they track it. So it's a massive problem. And then think about the insurance companies that underwrite all this, the risk, right? And the teams that suffer. Tottenham Hotspur, again, good example. 16 injuries this year up to there. Right? Usually I say that the injuries happen to the starting lineup, not to the bench. But here it went deeper.
The bench.
I think they were one game away. If they had not tied it, they would have been on the risk of being demoted off the Premier League. Their billion-dollar stadium was half empty because they're not doing well.
Ticket sales,
so it does. Yeah, there's a ripple effect, right? Like how many people walk through the gates. So yeah, the athletes are becoming the center of. I think it was Danny Townsend at Surge Investments, a big private equity. He said, "The health and well-being of players is tied to every commercial lever we invest in." And I thought it was a pretty profound statement. I went, "Yeah, you're right." I think there's been enough examples. Mahomes. I mean, that's
You go on.
NFL, right?
Yeah.
Look at the run of the New York Knicks a few years ago, and they lost out, right? I think it was to Cleveland,
Yeah. Two or something.
right? And the coach got fired. Do you recall what the reason was?
They didn't win. I don't remember.
Well, yeah, they didn't win. He was overplaying his players. They were
Really?
so and leading to injury rates. Yeah.
Ah.
So, and that's a concern also in the. There's a fellow that we're talking to. He's working with the Premier League on looking at hamstring injuries. Why is there such a high prevalence of hamstring injuries in the Premier League? So, yeah, people are starting to see the connection between injury and economics. I think that's what it comes down to. As long as it starts, yeah, it starts to hit the pocketbook. Um, and you think about the players, right? They're injured. What are the chances if they don't come back to the level of performance that they get re-signed?
Yeah. The
So they lose their
contract.
value, they lose their brand value, right? Yeah. So it's. So I appreciate this opportunity to be able to share some of
Yeah.
these insights because I think it's on sporting panels, sports, conferences. Um, this should be a topic to be discussed because it's
Yeah.
talked about in the periphery, right? Tell me one press conference after a football game
Yeah. Never.
that doesn't have injury.
Yep.
What
Talk
happened?
about the player report. Talk about the injury report.
Isn't there an injury report tied to like fantasy or something?
I'm
I don't
sure.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
fantasy
Yeah. Yeah. It's on
because you're
there.
making bets based on, and then your player gets hurt. You go, oh, geez, I
Yeah.
just right.
No, it's over with. Yeah. It's yeah, it's good. That's like you said. It's a good topic to have, and we appreciate you coming on today, Sanj, and telling us more about the space and the sector. And we'll be excited to kind of follow along where you and your team go next. And I guess in 2031 when you have that 14-year runway of building it out.
Yeah, I mean, look at we. I think that along the way we're going to be reaching milestones. I think if we're the ones that take it all the way, or we get acquired along the way, we're looking at other products just other than the one we have. We call it TX33 for scar tissue. It's just a simple local injection, right? It's simple to use. But yeah, but it's also we're trying to educate the industry to say, hey, pay attention to this, not only from a team performance standpoint, but from economic returns, both investment side as well as
Side.
optimizing, yeah, the investments you have made. So appreciate the opportunity to share this, and yeah, look forward to catching up and as we develop this whole uh, positioning
Yeah.
for injury recovery and performance.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for listeners and followers. And make sure to go check out Sanj. He's on LinkedIn and his websites and things, and you can follow him. Is that the best place to catch?
Yeah,
Catch up?
just Temple Ortho Bio is the website. Yeah, follow the company on LinkedIn. Where we try to, like I said, we're writing a white paper on this whole business of sports and injury recovery performance. That watch for that. It's going to be evidence based again as well. So when that comes out, maybe we can share that on your
Yep.
podcast again
Sure.
and see what people think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again, Sanj, and we'll, like I said, thanks for coming on. We're excited to follow along, and Constant Sports podcast listeners and viewers, we'll see you guys next week.